and welcome back to Ethics and Other Messy Things. I'm your host, Ashleigh Gardner-Cormier, and today I want to talk to you about something I've noticed happening more and more. Social workers. Well, not social workers, but social service or behavioral health workers, technically, are being called upon to offer their expertise in tech spaces to improve AI's fluency in the human services sector. And although it's a good thing, it also concerns me in some ways, and I think we need to talk about it. So, since this is ethics and other messy things, I figure we'd present it here, and what better way to present it than in the form of a case study, because we love a good case study, don't we? So, here we go. So, there's a social worker. We'll call her Alice, and she's being brought into a tech-adjacent space. Not to code, not to build a system, but to just lend her expertise. And so Alice is asked questions, simple ones, like what do social workers do? What does a typical day look like? And what are the most important skills in your work? And Alice answers thoughtfully. She talks about her clients, the systems she works in, advocacy, documentation, ethics, boundaries, the typical social worky things. And these answers are then used to help guide how an AI system talks about social work. And on the surface, this looks like inclusion, like progress even, because Lord knows we don't get asked many questions about ourselves often. But instead, there's usually a lot of assuming going on, right? So anyway, it looks like social work is finally getting a seat at the table. But I think this situation deserves a closer look. Because I hate to be a killjoy, but what's actually happening here, in my opinion, isn't collaboration. It's abstraction, or oversimplification, if you will. When you ask vague questions, you get flattened answers. Not because the professional lacks insight. I'm sure Alice is a great social worker. But because the structure of vague questions and moment-in-time answers can't hold the complexity of our profession accurately and to a sufficient degree. So, here's the issue. Because of the adjacency of our fields, social work tends to get lumped in with psychology, which is, in some contexts, can be summarized around internal processes, symptoms, and treatment models, meaning it can be placed into a more neat box than social work can. Social work definitely cannot fit into these boxes. It's not as simple as therapy. It's work with people inside systems. And at any given time, social work involves risk, policy, culture, poverty, power dynamics, conflicting institutions, time pressure, and let us never leave out moral injury. None of that shows up cleanly when questions are broad and the answers are treated as content rather than context. So when AI systems are trained on these kinds of inputs, what they learn isn't social work. They learn a simplified proxy, and that proxy quietly becomes authoritative. And this is problematic because AI systems don't just answer questions. They shape how professions are understood by agencies, administrators, developers, and the public. And when social work gets flattened into supportive conversations plus resources, the part of the job that actually protects people disappears. Ethical tension disappears, judgment under uncertainty disappears, and the difference between compliance and care disappears. And once those things are gone from the system's understanding, they're hard, if not impossible, to put back. Just think about yourself and how hard it is to break a single habit. Now imagine how many new contradictory inputs it would take to change the output of a computer, which is what AI is, just a highly advanced one. Now, I want to be clear. This is not a failure of social workers who agree to participate. Alice isn't wrong. As a matter of fact, she's really being an advocate for our profession and trying to move it forward by making sure it's in a space where it probably wouldn't normally be represented. And answering those questions she was asked is perfectly reasonable. But the real problem is structural in nature. Inclusion without structure is not ethical engagement. Representation without governance is extractive and minimizing. If the only way social workers enter the AI system is through loosely guided conversations, then the system won't learn what actually matters to us and those people that we serve. So I propose we find a way to ensure the complexity of this profession is finally seen and not ignored or missed. So this doesn't mean social workers need to learn to code. That's not what I'm here to say. But it does mean that AI is calling upon us to become technologically aware in ways that we haven't been before. We need to understand how systems learn, what data gets privileged, what nuance gets dropped, and where professional judgment gets replaced by pattern recognition. And we need to engage before those decisions harden into defaults, not just by describing our work, but by helping define the boundaries, the assumptions, and the limits under which systems operate. So, let's return to Alice. She answered her questions, as they were asked. But nobody ever asked her, how do you decide when policy harms instead of helps? How do you work when every option carries a risk? And how do you hold responsibility when systems fail the person in front of you? That's the knowledge gap. And that's the gap that doesn't get filled by better wording. It gets filled by deeper involvement. And the future of social work and AI will not be decided by who answers the questions fastest. I'm sorry, Alice, I appreciate you, but we need more. It'll be decided by who insists that the right questions get asked in the first place. So I want to be clear. Here at Ethics and Other Messy Things, I'm not here to just talk, so I'll be back next week with further information on what it means to get more deeply involved in technology as social workers and how we can help ourselves. So more information and more solutions, lots of exciting things coming down the pike. I can't wait to share with you. And until next time, thank you for sticking around this time.